Have you ever looked at a hallway full of closed doors and wondered if one of them was meant to be your last? Or sat in a bright room full of people, yet felt completely and deeply alone? That's how it began for me. Not with shouting, not with sirens, not with any obvious tragedy, just silence, and a soft realization that everything had changed. It's strange what people think when they hear nursing home. Some imagine peace. Others think of gentle nurses, warm blankets, bingo nights, and steady routines. But what many don't talk about are the truths. The quiet, hard truths that only show up after you've handed over your keys, kissed your old home goodbye, and stepped into something that promises safety but might cost you more than you expected. Let's begin with the first. Truth 1. You will miss the silence you once hated. The silence. Back at home, I used to get frustrated by it. The ticking clock, the humming fridge, the creaking wall at night. But here, silence means something else. You hear strangers coughing, you hear machines beeping, you hear a nurse laugh, not at you, not with you, just somewhere down the hallway, disconnected from your world. Silence becomes a wall, a thick one, and no matter how much noise fills this building, it's not your noise, it doesn't belong to you. That ache, that absence of familiar sounds, it creeps up in the middle of the night. You remember your old teacup clicking on the saucer, the neighbor's dog, your own footsteps on the porch. None of that follows you here, and strangely, you miss it, deeply. Truth 2. The food nourishes your body, but starves your soul. It's not always bad, sometimes it's warm, sometimes there's even dessert. But food, you see, is never just food. It's about what you liked, what you chose, what you burned on the stove and still ate with pride. Here, you eat on someone else's schedule. They say it's healthy, and sometimes it is. They check your sugar, your sodium, your fiber, but who checks your happiness? There's little salt, no spice, no conversation over the stove, no late-night crackers with someone you love. It feeds you, but you still leave the table feeling a little empty. Truth 3. You will be surrounded by people, but lonelier than ever. That one hurt to say. They told me I wouldn't be alone here, and technically, I'm not. There are nurses, there are visitors, there's a roommate, there's staff checking in. But I miss being alone on my own terms. I miss being lonely by choice, not by design. You can't cry in privacy. You can't take a deep breath without someone checking your oxygen. You can't just sit by your own window, because the window here, it doesn't show your street, your tree, your sky. Everyone around you has their own memories, but they're not your memories. And so, even when surrounded by dozens of people, you can still feel like the only one alive in a sea of ghosts. Truth 4. Freedom leaves quietly, and you don't notice until it's gone. No one tells you when it happens. There's no announcement. But slowly, you ask permission more and more. Can I go outside? Can I have another coffee? Can I wear my own socks? Each no is polite, each not today is said with a smile. But they collect in the corners of your day like dust. You learn the routines. You memorize the medication cart. You follow schedules you didn't create. And at some point, you stop fighting. That's the part that stings. Not that you lost your freedom, but that you adjusted to it being gone. Truth 5. Your identity becomes a file, and your history becomes a label. You are not a person here. You are a room number, a diagnosis, a fall risk, a list of allergies. They call you by name, but it's the name on your chart. Not the one your brother used to say with laughter. Not the one your partner whispered at 3 a.m. when they pulled you closer in sleep. You tell your stories, and people smile, but their eyes glance at their watches, because your story isn't part of their shift. So you stop telling it. Not because you've forgotten, but because you realize no one is really listening. You become small, not physically but emotionally. You take up less space in rooms, less space in conversations, less space in the world, until one day, you hear a nurse say, "Room 21 is still eating." And you realize, that's you, that's all you are in this moment. A location, an activity, an object to be monitored. And not long after that. Truth 6. It's hard to ask for help, but it's even harder when no one notices you need it. This one is quiet. It lives in the corner of your throat when you want to speak, but feel it's too much trouble. You drop your spoon, nobody sees. You feel dizzy. You lie down, wait for it to pass. You want someone to ask, "How are you really?" But instead you hear, "Lunch is served." And the strangest thing is, you don't blame them. They're busy. They're kind. They're doing their jobs. But help, real help, isn't just about lifting or moving or fetching. It's about seeing. And when you start feeling invisible, even a helping hand feels far away. So no, it wasn't the walls or the beds or the rules that made me regret moving into a nursing home. It was, there's something peculiar about time here. Not the way clocks tick, but how memories stretch. A single afternoon feels endless, yet the weeks disappear. It's as if life slows down in all the wrong places. Some days you stare out the window and remember the smallest things. The exact sound of your old front door creaking open. The warmth of a Sunday sun on your porch. The way your living room smelled when someone brought in fresh flowers. Here, you count things. How many pills? How many naps? How many times you've explained to a new nurse that you don't like peas? There are emotions that never made it onto the brochures. They didn't mention what it feels like to have someone fold your laundry who doesn't know which shirt belonged to your late spouse, or how strange it is to be bathed by hands that don't understand the scars on your body or the stories behind them. And yet this is now your normal. You are not broken. You are not lost. But you are being rewritten, quietly, line by line. Do you know what it feels like to be treated gently and still feel unseen? Kindness is not the same as connection. They are kind here. They wheel you carefully. They check your chart. They speak in soft tones. But they don't ask about the photo you keep next to your bed. They don't ask why you hum a certain song every morning. They don't know your favorite chair from home, the one that made your knees feel better on rainy days, and that makes the air around you colder than it should be. I remember one afternoon, a woman maybe 82, thin as a pencil, dropped her handkerchief. It floated down like a feather. I watched 5 people step over it. Not out of cruelty, they just didn't see it. And I watched her eyes. She didn't cry. She didn't speak. She just stared at that piece of cloth like it had been her last possession. And I thought, that's what happens when small things matter more than big ones. When dignity lives in a folded piece of fabric that nobody else notices. That night I didn't sleep, not because I was uncomfortable, but because I kept wondering, when did I start expecting less? Less attention, less conversation, less memory of who I used to be. We're told to accept the cycle of life, to age with grace, to be grateful we're cared for. And yes, there is truth in that. There is dignity in survival. There is beauty in stillness. But not if it means surrendering what made us human. Let me tell you something no nurse ever asked me. What do you miss the most? No one's asked that in 2 years. But I'll tell you, I miss being called by my nickname. I miss opening a fridge and choosing something, even if it was unhealthy. I miss the freedom to sit in a room without fluorescent lights. I miss being worried about things that mattered. Here the worries are scheduled. Blood pressure, blood sugar, blood tests. But the heart? No one checks that. Not the muscle, but the story it carries. One woman came here strong, independent, 74, lively. She used to dance. I saw her once, twirling in her room to a tune on the radio. 6 months later, I saw her stare at a wall for 20 minutes. She told me she hadn't heard her daughter's voice in 5 weeks. Then she smiled and said, "It's okay, they're busy." But it wasn't okay. She looked smaller, not in size, in spirit. Let me be honest with you. Living in a nursing home won't ruin you, but it will change you. Some changes are necessary. Some are even healing. But some are quiet little disappearances. The kind where no one notices what's missing except you. And it's not just about sadness. There are moments of joy too. Someone might wheel you outside and the sun will touch your face just right. You'll hear a child laugh in the distance. You'll smell fresh cut grass and feel for a moment like everything is okay again. You'll see someone across the hall smile when they finally get a letter, or hear a nurse sing under her breath while changing sheets. Tiny sparks of life. They still flicker here, but you learn to treasure them like gold, because they are rare, and when they happen, you cling to them longer than most people would understand. I don't regret the safety. I don't regret the medical care. But I regret not knowing what I was trading when I chose this. I regret the assumptions I made. I regret thinking loneliness wouldn't follow me. I regret some mornings you wake up and forget where you are for a moment. There's a second, just one, where you expect to see your old curtains. Where your hand reaches for the lamp you've had for 20 years. Where your bones expect the creak of your favorite mattress. And then it hits you, you're not home, you're here. And the room is tidy. Too tidy, because here, nothing is out of place. But somehow everything feels misplaced. There's a smell to this place, not foul, not fragrant, just sanitized. And you start to miss the smell of burned toast. The mix of newspaper ink and coffee steam, the soft perfume your spouse used to wear that lingered in the hallway even after they left the room. Here, all the smells are the same: bleach, soap, fabric softener, everything sterile, everything forgettable. And yet, we stay. We stay not because we're weak, but because we're told this is where safety lives. But what if safety came at the cost of your story? Let's talk about routine. Routine can be a comfort, but here it becomes a clock. You wake up when they wake you. You eat when they say it's time. You sleep when the lights dim, not when your heart is ready to rest. There's no spontaneity, no midnight tea, no sudden laugh from the next room, because someone remembered an old joke. You don't choose when to take a walk, you're taken for one. You don't decide when to sit outside, it's planned, weather permitting, staff available. It's not prison, it's just control without cruelty. And that's somehow harder to notice, and harder to fight. We start to say things like, it's fine, they mean well, at least I'm being looked after. And those are not lies. But they are not the full truth either. Because the full truth is, we still want to feel useful. We still want to feel seen. We still want to feel like someone somewhere is waiting for our opinion, not our medication chart. Do you know what I miss more than anything? Making decisions that didn't matter. I miss choosing the green sweater over the blue one. I miss changing my mind. I miss skipping a meal because I didn't feel like eating, and not because a nurse was watching over my tray. Those small decisions, they made me feel like I had agency. Now, even asking for an extra napkin feels like a request. We adapt. Of course we do. We smile. We adjust. We make friends, some of whom leave quietly in the night and don't return. We cry, not loudly, but in the shower, or into a pillow, or while pretending to read. There is grief here that never speaks. Grief for people, for places, for possibilities. And yet, somewhere in this quiet, a strange gratitude forms, because even though I regret this move, I've learned things no brochure ever mentioned. I've learned the depth of a real hug when someone visits. I've learned how sharp a memory can feel when it returns out of nowhere. I've learned how powerful it is to call someone by their name and really mean it. I've learned that even here, some people will surprise you with kindness that feels like sunlight on your face after a long winter. But you have to wait for it. You have to dig for it, because kindness here isn't always warm. Sometimes it's efficient. Sometimes it's tired. Sometimes it's distracted. And you start to understand that kindness without connection is like food without flavor, filling, but not nourishing. One evening, a staff member asked if I wanted to join movie night. I asked what film. They didn't know. I said no. Later I regretted it. Not because I wanted to watch the movie, but because it would have been one more hour not spent alone. You see, even the things you don't want start to matter. Because options are rare, freedom, even rarer. So when I say I regret moving into a nursing home, it's not because of bad treatment. It's not because of one big thing. It's because of all the small things, all the tiny losses that stack up, the conversations never had, the choices never made, the emotions carefully folded and hidden because there's no time and no one to share them with. And some nights when it's too quiet and the hallway light leaks through the bottom of your door, you sit up, you stare into the dark, and you whisper something into the stillness. Not because someone will hear it, but because you don't want to forget the sound of your own voice. Somewhere along the way, I stopped expecting things. I stopped expecting letters. I stopped expecting visitors. I stopped expecting someone to ask me, what do you want today, instead of here's what's next. At first it was subtle. Then one day I noticed I hadn't spoken more than 10 words that morning, and no one had noticed. I wasn't sick. I wasn't sad. I was just quiet. And in this place, silence is not alarming. It's expected. Let me tell you about the night I realized I'd become a shadow in my own life. A nurse, kind and quick, was adjusting my blanket. She asked how I felt. I said, "I don't know." She smiled, nodded, and said, "Okay then," before walking out. And that was it. She wasn't cruel. She was just working. But that night, I stared at the ceiling and thought, what if I had said something different? What if I had said, "I feel invisible"? Would she have paused? Would anyone? Regret doesn't always roar. Sometimes it trickles in like water under a door, slow, unnoticed, until the whole room is damp. And now, I feel it everywhere. I regret giving up my garden. Not because I loved flowers, but because planting them made me feel part of something that would outlive me. I regret letting go of my porch, not for the wood or the paint, but because it was the last place I watched the seasons change. Here, seasons come and go, but nothing else does. It's always the same rooms, the same hallways, the same announcements through the speaker. And the sameness, it dulls you, not like a knife, like a memory fading, fading, fading. Sometimes I look at the younger staff and wonder if they see us at all, not our files, not our prescriptions. Us, the man who built a company from nothing, the woman who survived a war, the couple who were married for 60 years and still held hands until the very end. That's who we are. But when you live in a place where everyone looks forward to nap time more than news headlines, you start to wonder if the world has already decided you're done living. Still, there are moments. Moments when a grandchild visits and brings a drawing. Moments when the sun hits the floor just right and makes you feel warm again. Moments when another resident holds your hand after a bad night. These are not enough, but they're something. And sometimes something is all we get. You learn to survive on small mercies. A warm blanket, a nurse who says your name like it matters, a letter in your drawer that you've already read 10 times but you pretend it's new. You learn to smile, even when it feels mechanical, because smiling means you're still here, still choosing, still trying. Do I regret moving into a nursing home? Yes, but not because I expected luxury, not because I thought it would be perfect. I regret it because I didn't ask the right questions. I didn't prepare for what I'd lose. I didn't realize how slowly and silently independence disappears until it's gone. You can't touch your favorite doorknob anymore. You can't cook the soup you made every winter. You can't decide to walk outside at midnight just because you can't sleep. These aren't luxuries. These are pieces of selfhood, and when they're taken, no one tells you how hard it is to live without them. I'm not angry. I'm just older now, and wiser in a way that hurts more than it heals. And if I could sit down with someone like you before they made this choice, I'd tell them the things no one told me. I'd say, look past the paint and the flowers. Ask what freedoms you'll still have. Ask who will know your favorite story. Ask if they'll care when you're quiet for too long. And most of all, ask yourself what you're willing to give up just to feel safe. Because safety can be a soft blanket, but it can also be a very quiet cage. We spent hours to create this for you, not to frighten but to prepare. If it helped you see more clearly, please consider helping us too. Your support helps us keep telling these stories, the real ones, the ones that matter. The link is in the comments and description. And as one final thought from me, if you ever get the chance to call an elder by their name today, not their title, not their diagnosis, not their room number, just do it. Because being seen is sometimes the strongest medicine we have left.